Hey everyone, welcome back for not just another chapter. Today we are going to start making our way through the book of Colossians. It's another short one, but also a good one as you can imagine. Let's kick it off. You're watching the Bible vlog. So Colossians was also written by Paul and was written during 61 AD, almost the same time as the book of Philippians, which we just finished reading. Now the church that Paul was writing to at Colossae, he had never actually visited. So this church was smaller and actually met in Philemon's home, who's another character from the New Testament that we'll read about shortly. Now the central theme of this book is the supremacy and the sufficiency of Christ. Also something interesting is that the tone of this book is very direct to the reader, because one of the things that Paul was dealing with were false teachers at the church at Colossae. Now, many of these false teachers were trying to teach a form of Gnosticism that basically says Jesus was not fully God and fully man, but rather a semi-divine being that bridged the gap between God and man. So in their view, Jesus was lacking in authority and ability to meet the needs of the Colossians. So instead of teaching the truth, these false teachers said that by being more enlightened, you could achieve spiritual fullness through special knowledge and self-discipline. Sounds pretty familiar to a lot of spiritual teaching that we hear today. So with that in mind, one of the very first things that Paul does is to address the preeminence of Christ. Now, preeminence sounds like a big word, but it just means surpassing all others. It means having superiority over everything else. So look at what Paul writes in verses 15 through 18. He, talking about Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. Okay, pause here for a second. I love what Paul says in the very first verse, that Jesus is the image of the invisible God. You know, if the truth be told, most people don't think about God like this at all. Most people don't picture God smiling or laughing or having fun. You know, we often think of God as kind of this old-looking guy just sitting on a throne, kind of angrily looking down on creation. But if you really want to know what God looks like, look at Jesus. Jesus demonstrates God's heart towards people. It is one of love towards the human race that is not contingent on even if you're a believer. God loves people. All right, let's keep going. Look at verses 16 through 18. For by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created through him and for him, talking about Jesus. And he is before all things, and in him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he may have the preeminence. Paul is saying that Jesus should be first in everything. You know, that's a lot easier to say sometimes than it is to actually live out. You see, when someone truly comes first in your life, then you give them priority. You ask them for their thoughts about things. You seek them and spend time with them. Knowing about Jesus isn't enough. You need to know him personally, and that only comes from consistently spending time with him. Guys, I'm telling you, when you truly prioritize your relationship with Christ by your actions and not just your words, you will start to see your life turn around. Don't just go to God when times get tough and you're seeking him out of desperation. Seek him daily. All right, let's look at one more passage here in verses 21 through 23. And you who were once alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now he is reconciled in the body of his flesh through death, to present you holy and blameless and above reproach in his sight. If indeed you continue in the faith, grounded and steadfast, and are not moved away from the hope of the gospel which you heard, which was preached to every creature under heaven, of which I, Paul, became a minister. Paul is encouraging these people to continue with their faith and not to try to add false things to it. You know, it's easy in life to try and be tempted to take shortcuts. It's human nature to want to look for a secret way to get what we want quickly. And this is exactly what was happening to these people. The false teaching of this hidden, secret, extra knowledge is what would really give them what they were looking for. But Paul is saying, no, it's all about Jesus. The more you know Christ, the more he will reveal himself to you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is going to do it for us today with chapter 1 of Colossians. Happy to be starting another book like this. It's always fun. All right, guys. Well, as always, thank you for joining us. Come back tomorrow for chapter 2 as we continue on. Until then, be good. Hope you're enjoying this Christmas season as much as I am. I love you guys. We will see you back here tomorrow.